went back to finish off your...
Yes, and I did the last 2 years of the what here would be probably be an MSc. It's Cambridge Cambridge degree names are hopeless tangle because they got very, they'd gone right down after the Middle Ages and in the 18th century, and when they started going up again, the simplest thing was not to reform the existing degrees, but to put in new labels and things. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. You know, I went to the last 2 years of an MSc type of course, and from that I went to London University College, not University College, but one of the university colleges of the University of London, called Royal Holloway College, and out towards Windsor. I was there for 4 years, and then I went to the Royal Naval College, which is down the Thames, opposite to, well, Greenwich, behind that airway part of the Thames. And I was there for 4 years, and then we felt the housing accommodation was difficult, and we were getting unsatisfactory accommodation in the places we needed it. So we said, blow this, we'll take ourselves somewhere where we can get accommodation. So we tried for New Zealand. I applied for jobs in New Zealand and in Australia, and got offers in both, and took the New Zealand one.
Was that a flip of a coin?
No, not quite. The salary was identical because there were still in pound shillings and pence terms.
Yes, that's right.
I think they were identical, but the New Zealand one was at the bottom of the scale, and the Australian one was at the top of the scale. So on the strength of that, I took the New Zealand one, because it was a better offer, in fact.
Yes, it's room to move.
And so we came out here and carried on from there.
It's completely out of context, but I remember you mentioning to me after church a few Sundays ago the early days in the village of your parents where there was no power.
Oh no. When in my father, I don't know what was in my father's original parish. He was in one parish in Suffolk, a fairly small one. Mother lived in a place roughly like Ashburton or not as big as Timaru, but a moderate size, little halfway to being a town, where her father was a doctor. When I remember, they certainly had mains gas available from a local gas company. What they did about whether they had electricity then, I don't know. I think they may have done. So I don't remember oil lamps in the house. But out in the country, there was no electricity, no gas, no mains electricity, no mains water.
So where was that?
It was in Suffolk.
Suffolk. Yeah. That's where you were born.
That's where I was born. I was born in Ipswich. His father was in his country parish, about 8 miles from Ipswich. And as I said, there was no. We cooked. Actually, we cooked with kerosene. What in England we call paraffin oil. And that went back. Something I don't remember. But there was a big general strike and a coal strike and things. And Mother had been cooking on coal ranges before that. She'd been brought up on that. But obviously, to deal with the absence of coal, she and her husband bought a paraffin, a cooker. It was actually intended for cooking. I think he had 3 burners and an oven which you could move across the top. And when the coal became available, she decided this was really a more convenient method than the coal range.
Yes.
So she stayed with that for, I suppose, 20 years. Getting on. That would have been about 28 when she decided to stay with it. And I don't think she would have got electricity until about 48. And that was mainly, very largely a result of the Labour government that came in after the war in England. In spite of a huge approval of Winston Churchill and a quite successful national government, when the election came up in 1945, the Tories just went, and they did a whole string of nationalisation, including electric power. And as a result of this, the distribution was more generous. So we had I don't ever remember electric power at home while I was living there at all. But that wouldn't have signified much. But by the time I don't know it was when we were married or when we were back in Cambridge, but I do remember later on they had got power and light.
So did they stay in the one place all that time?
Father was in that parish from 1925 to his retirement in 1965.
Goodness, that would be unusual.
Not all that
unusual.
It was partly because the appointments, you see, in England used to be made by a person called the patron. There was a descendant, presumably the person who built the first, had been responsible for building the first church, or providing some of the land, or something. And it had gone, and it was treated as real estate, and you could sell them. And my grandmother had a large family, mostly boys. She just had the idea that all the boys would be clergymen when they grew up. Well, 3 of them were.
Really?
And so she to provide them with living, in either sense of the word, she proceeded to buy the rights of patronage. And I don't know how many she actually got. I think she may have had about 3. Because the first parish his father was in was one of hers. And then a vacancy turned up in another. You couldn't push a person out. The vacancy turned up in another parish. And it was a nice one, nice house, and good, pleasant place to live. And she offered it to him, and he accepted it willingly, and the bishop approved. And he was duly instituted sometime in 1925, which I can just remember. The bits of it I can remember are fragmentary, but I do remember driving up to the house in an old Ford car that we had with an open roof, and car full of, well, father, mother, me, luggage, and a cat.
Were you an only child?
I was an only child.
Oh, right.
And I remember driving, and then I remember little bits here and there after that. There'd been a big storm just before we moved in, I think. And there was a big tree which had to be tidied up and moved, and no one did anything about it. It was just trimmed and rolled to one side. We walked past it on the way to the church, and I remember doing that.
That church would still be there, wouldn't it?
Oh, that church is still there, and
you've been back to it.
Oh yes, and well, because of the patronage, grandmother left it to father, and he left it to my mother, and she's left it to me.
Ah, my
goodness.
I
was going to leave it to the bishop, but I've decided to leave it to the present day, to Imogen.
Good for you.
So, what does that entail? It's the house.
Well, it encourages well the right to be the incumbent, the right to be the vicar or the rector or whatever, and the rectory house and a little bit of land around it. It's a big garden rather than a small section.
So who lives in it now?
Oh, it's been sold.
Oh, it's been sold.
Decent, sensibly.
Yes.
Because it was
It
a huge house by modern standards. It was quite big by those of its period. Because I don't know, several of the clergy between its building and my father's time had several children. And of course servants too, because there was no electricity or anything. It was convenient at least to employ servants. We only had one. We had two, to be accurate. One was a housemaid, I suppose you'd call her, but she did everything inside the house. She lived in, did the house, learned cooking off my mother, which was very handy for everybody. And then outside, because we had this big garden, we employed a gardener to help with that. And he became a general handyman as well. Father taught him to paint windows and things.
Oh,
Because one of the things that although you got the rectory, the house, you had to maintain it. And what actually happened frequently was that the vicar or rector would die, and then when the transfer occurred, there was an awful lot of maintenance to be done, which was charged to his widow.
Right. It's all
Not so
to be
good.
paid for.
But then they changed the rules in about 925 and set up a system whereby some money was deducted from the clerical income and put into a fund. And every 5 years, the diocese sent an architect round to see what you're doing. And it's always included painting, of course, the outside, at least the outside timber, the windows and the gutters and things. And in the process of doing that, Father taught this bloke to do maintenance painting, which was really useful for him. So where are we to go from there now?
Oh, I was thinking probably about your history with St. Michael's.
With
St. Michael's.
Oh, well, we'll look at that, right. I started coming to church. Well, the whole family came to church, and quite soon, I'm not quite certain exactly when, we got the girls into St. Michael's School. There weren't at that age vacancies.
Not like now.
Well, yes, but on the other hand, not like now, but then in those days, several teachers did 2 classes, and we had, I think there were 2 nuns working there.
That's right.
And I think the total space was probably the present old stone building. There may have been, there were some odd bits and pieces around the back, which have gone now. But where it all was, I don't know if I ever knew. And the hall wasn't in its present place.
No, it was around the other way, wasn't it? Yes.
Well, originally it was to the other side of the church.
Was it?
Yeah, oh yes.
Not when you.
No, that was before. I don't know when that was moved. It may have been moved when the old stone building was put up, which is 1912. That would probably. At any rate, we said we were settling into part of the congregation of St. Michael's, and everything was going quite nicely.
So who was the vicar then?
Father Gold.